Good morning, everybody. This is Dee Reinhardt, and I have Norm Kellowitz on the phone with me. We are going to be talking about labor market information, and it's part of our Exploring Careers series. So today we're going to talk about what labor market information is, where you can find it, and how you can use it. So first and foremost, what is labor market information? And for purposes of this webinar, we're going to refer to it as LMI for short. So our guest speaker this morning is Norm Kellowitz. He is a labor market economist with the Illinois Department of Employment Security. Thanks, Norm, for joining us, and welcome to the webinar.
Okay, thank you for inviting me.
So on our first slide about labor market information, we've got 3 bullet points here that say employment statistics, job forecasts, wage and demographic characteristics. Can you tell us a little bit for our listening audience what those 3 terms mean?
Okay, and first, in terms of employment statistics, we can provide you with local unemployment rates and state unemployment rates. Employment, unemployment, and the rates. We can provide you with our occupational projections and industrial projections. So it's by occupation, by industry, again for the state and for local areas. It depends on your interests, what your organization, how far they go in terms of geography. We can also provide you with wage information. We have a wage survey that we survey local employers on their wages by occupation, and that is another type of labor market information that we can provide.
That's all great information, because a lot of times when people are looking for a job, they want to know what a prevailing wage might be in their particular area. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in a few slides. So where do you find labor market information? One of the places that we look for and we suggest to people is ONET. And ONET provides individuals, and the link is in your presentation. So if you have downloaded the PowerPoint presentation, you can click on that link and it will take you directly to the website on all of these pages. The ONET Online gives you federal level data, so it will give you a wage average for a worker that is averaged across all of the 50 states. On Illinois Worknet, under our Explore Careers page, we have the ability to show you some career information, some wage data, and the Illinois Department of Employment Security has an entire section, a very robust section on labor market information, and that's what we're going to delve into in a couple of our following slides. First, let's talk a little bit about ONET. And ONET, as I said, is an average of federal wage data, but it also links to some state-level information, and in a few cases you can actually enter a zip code, as you can see in one of the images on your screen, to get a little bit more localized data. First and foremost, you want to type in a career path, and for this example we used accountants. So you want to select the ones that you want to view from the list. Scroll down the page to the wage and employment data information, and then that's where you can enter a zip code or your state by looking at that. And as you can see here, it shows for accountants that in 2012 there was 1,275,000 accountants across the country with an average hourly wage of $31 an hour in 2013. So this gives you some data at the federal level, and then you can click down to Illinois local data and notice that it might be higher or lower depending upon the zip code that you enter. On our next slide here, we've got Illinois Worknet data, and we've got a great tool. You can access this information in a couple of ways. We have our Employment 101 guide, which is geared for new workers to the system or to people who are entertaining the idea of changing careers. And what this does is it helps you go through and find information about particular careers or about information that has to do with a job that you may want to investigate. And you can see from the pictures on the screen that there is wage data and some labor forecasting information available as well. You can also find this information from our can't say that word, careers, wages, and trends pages, also on our Explore Careers section, that will help you find the particular information about the particular job that you want to do. Also, you can find information from about career clusters and use the menu items to explore more career information. I want to take a moment right now to pull out a polling question, and just to see what you've done, which of these items can you find with labor market information? And click all that apply. So we'll see how good they've been listening, Norm. It looks like they've picked occupational trends, wage data, state level data, median annual salary information. That's great. But they're not picking temporary job postings or local job listings. Are those things available on your labor market information at all?
Our agency has Illinois Job Link that you can go to. It's a job board that you can find jobs.
Right, but it's not actually part of the labor market information, which was what the question actually was.
No, there are ways to get to it, but it's not. Our agency does provide that information.
All right, great. Well, we're going to hide this poll now and move on with our presentation. And right now, we're going to talk about Illinois Worknet and how the labor market information is translated into Illinois Worknet. And here are two screens that you can see that talks about computer engineers, and it shows you the wage information in the lower right-hand image, and it shows you the projection of employment. And we work with Illinois Department of Employment Security to obtain some of this data so that it pulls into our filters and gives you the most accurate data that we can find. And as you can see here, we are talking about computer hardware engineers. And if you live in the St. Louis Belleville area, the average median wage per hour is $44.35, whereas for the United States average, it's $50. And that means that that encompasses all of the areas that might also include the Silicon Valley, where people are paid big bucks to be a computer hardware engineer, as well as maybe in a less urbanized area where a computer engineer only makes $25 an hour. But it gives you growth potential as well as wage information. Taking a look at our next slide, we now move into the IDES, or Illinois Department of Employment Security information. And you can see at the top of the screen how you can access the website, ides.illinois.gov. You want to go to the Workforce Partners page and then click on the labor market information. Scroll down the page and click on occupational wages. And that will take you to the items that we're going to talk about next. So on that data, Norm, we see some information that says statewide, metropolitan statistical area, economic development region, local workforce area, county, and all wages are by SOC codes. But tell me a little bit about the difference between those areas of data that people will find?
Okay, metropolitan statistical areas are basically the metro areas of the state, the Chicago metro, Bloomington Normal, etc. Okay, where people just get jobs and don't have to move. Economic development regions are larger areas, and there are 10 in the state. Local workforce areas are somewhere in between there. It's a federal job program, those regions, and there are 26 in the state. We have data by county. A suggestion I can make is we have data and we have confidentiality requirements, meaning if the area is very small, we can't, and there's only one employer that hires that type of occupation, we can't tell you what the wages are because that would be giving away confidential information. So let's say if you're in one county and you can't find the information for a particular occupation in that county, let's say Peoria County, then what I would suggest would be that you might go up to the metro area or then the local workforce area. So then you would have a better chance of finding data for your particular occupation.
Great suggestion, Norm. Let's move on to the next slide where we actually have some numbers on the screen. And we've got an accounting position here that it shows the state versus local. And we've got the top set of numbers is the state information, and the bottom set of numbers is for the local workforce area down in WIA 24. So if you take a look at this, do you want to explain to the audience a little bit about what they will see on this wage data?
Okay, we have the data, entry level, medium wage, which is, if you put, means half of the people earn more and half of the people earn less, and experienced wage. What we do is how we get entry, median, and experienced is we divide the wages into three parts, and the entry level is the median of the lower third, and median is the median, and the experience is the median of the upper third wages, which kind of give you an idea of starting median and experience.
And this is useful because, as you can see in the numbers, for an accountant and auditor position, it's actually a higher median wage. It's actually a higher everything wage for LWIA 24 than it is across the state. And that's what we're just talking about, how people get paid different wages in different areas. What's useful about this is when somebody asks you in a job interview, what do you want to get paid, this gives you a wage range that you can share with that potential employer to say, well, the wage range for this position is $21 to $44 an hour. I'm sure you will pay me what is commensurate with my experience. Would you agree with that as a good goal for people to use?
Yes, and I've gotten calls like that from both employers and employees. Another use, if I can butt into this, is that people can see, people that want to go to school can find out, well, is it worth it? What am I going to be, I'm going to be paying so much for school. What will I be getting possibly in wages? I was reading something yesterday in my alumni review about the fact that people, nurses that get advanced degrees can go on and become nurse practitioners. Well, if someone is deciding to get an advanced degree in nursing, they can look at our wages for nurse or nurse practitioner, and decide, well, is it worth it investing in schooling? How much more money will I be making?
That's a great point. Great point. So while we're looking at trends and talking about schooling, we need to look at what are the goals for employment. And the same thing, Norm, if you want to go to school to be a nurse, you want to see what the projection is for it, right? So we
Correct.
want to look at employment projections, short-term, long-term, industry, and occupations. And let's talk a little bit. I'm going to move on to the next slide. But you would go to the Workforce Partners, labor market information, and then just scroll down the page for employment projections. But in there, you want to explain just a little bit about what the difference is between the phrases there.
Okay, in fact, I'm doing employment projections right now. I was doing it before this call. First, we do industry projections. And one thing nice about our system is that I can vary the figures. If I know that something is going into an area or out of it, I can add or subtract that industry. In terms of all these different columns, I think the important one to look at is total annual job openings. Because
Okay.
we have growth and we have replacement. Okay, growth is added jobs, replacement is replacing someone that's going to retire, such as I'm going to do at the end of the year.
Oh, no!
Yes, I should have applause for it. At least I'll be applauding for that. So when you're talking to your people, people you're counseling, you should look at the total openings, because really it doesn't make any difference whether a job is opening because there's a new job, because a new plant is coming into town, or because someone has just won the lottery and decided to retire and go someplace. That isn't my case. I didn't win the lottery. But what Dee mentioned, I think that that's one of the most important columns to look at, and then look at all the columns. That's probably the most important to look at, because you can have employment change, percent change, but if you have a small base, there are going to be very few openings.
How often do they update this data? This data that's on the screen right now is from 2012 to 2022. How frequently do they make that update?
We do that update. Okay, the state we do the state before we do the local area. We do it every 2 years. So right now, in a couple of months, if you would look at the bottom, it would be 2012 to 2022.
Okay. So state is done first, did you say, or the local areas are done first?
To answer your question, it's done every 2 years.
Okay. All right. So if we're looking at wage data and it's now a new year, we should be coming up shortly. Next year we should see wage data for 2014 to 2024, right?
No, that would be, let's see, we're in 2014, that would be in 2016.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to the next slide that shows the industry changes for state and local, and we've got some North American Industrial Classification System, NAICS, and that's standard across the country, right?
Correct. It's standard across the U.S., Mexico, and Canada.
Oh, that's wonderful to know.
This system was devised when the North American Free Trade Agreement was signed, whenever that was.
Okay. So looking at just financial activities, it looks to be a growth rate that isn't quite as high as somebody who might be in securities, commodities, and financial activities. So depending upon what the actual job is, you want to take a look at what the growth rate is going to be. And
Right.
that can help you determine what you want your job to be. So out of labor market data, we have two key things that we can take away with us. And it is wage ranges that you can use to determine whether or not you want to enhance your education or whether or not you want to get a new job in it, and what the growth potential is for those jobs, whether or not you need to invest in education so that you can get into that career field, or whether or not you want to move into it. So let's pull out our final poll question here, and it says, I can use this webinar information to, and please answer everything that you think is applicable. And again, I'd like to thank Norm Kelowitz for joining us today. He took some of his very valuable pre-retirement time to help us with this webinar, and we appreciate the time and effort that you took to join us on this call. Hopefully
You're welcome.
you are able to use the information. So any parting words for our audience today, Norm?
No, thank you. If you have any questions about the information, I'm sure you can go to Dee, and she would contact me, and we would come up with an answer.
Great. Well, thank you very much, and you can watch the rest of our series on exploring careers on our YouTube channel as well as on our website, illinoisworknet.com. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great day.